Good evening. I would like to call to order the February 5th, 2019 Little Rock City Board of Directors meeting. We would like to welcome those that are in attendance as well as those watching online. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Director Hendricks, Director Richardson, Director Webb, Director Peck, Director Hines, Director Wright, Director Compuris, Director Fordson, Director Adcock, Vice Mayor Wyrick, Mayor Scott.
Present. Let me recognize Director Dean Compuris, who will give our invocation. Jean Fordson, I'm sorry. Easily to mistake those two.
You join me in prayer. Our God, we thank you for this opportunity together again as free citizens to deliberate the affairs of our city. We ask for divine guidance as we consider those measures important to the future of our town, and we hope for guidance to make certain that our decisions are wise and just. We ask for protection and support for all of our uniformed first responders and are thankful for the continued blessings we enjoy. These things we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now have a point of privilege from Director Joan Adcock.
And understanding during my last month that I have been ill. I am back. I look forward to continuing to serve the community. I was a bit concerned when someone sent me a copy of a picture of me and the word, "Where is Joan?" You know, as a city director, I know that everything I do is a concern to the citizens, and I should be very open with everything that I do. I did spend 2 weeks in St. Vincent's. I had some very serious spinal surgery. I have spent 2 weeks in recovery, rehab, and I will also be continuing rehab for the next several months. But I just wanted to tell everyone, thank you so much for all of your kindness and all the kindness shown by the board. I appreciated it very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Director Adcock, and from the bottom of my heart, and I speak on behalf of this entire city board, that we dearly missed you, and we are very grateful that you did take time to recover, and as you continue to recover, you will remain in our daily thoughts and prayers. I also want to specially acknowledge Susan Langley, who has made special appropriation for Director Adcock, something we probably should have already done as it relates to just being more compliant as we move forward. So I just want to recognize City Clerk Susan Langley for that.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, if you would, please read the consent agenda.
The consent agenda consists of a motion to approve the minutes of the December 3rd, 2018 Little Rock City Board of Directors meetings and the December 11th, 2018 Little Rock City Board of Directors reconvene meeting. A resolution to set February 19th, 2019 as the date for a public hearing to consider the issuance of water reclamation system revenue bonds for the purpose of financing betterments and improvements to the city's water reclamation system and for other purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with Clark Machinery for a total purchase price of $66,450 for the purchase of one asphalt roller for the Public Works Department and for other purposes. A resolution authorized the mayor to execute quitclaim deeds to donate undeveloped property owned by the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to DePaul USA to be utilized for neighborhood revitalization programs and for other purposes. A resolution authorized the mayor, city manager, and city clerk to execute all documents required for the purchase and demolition of the property located at 3 Curtis Cove for flood mitigation purposes and for the purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a transfer agreement for ownership of right-of-way for the Arkansas State Highway Commission for Canis Road, Shackelford Road, and Markham Street and for the purposes. A resolution authorized the city manager to enter into a contract with Cruz Uniforms Equipment Incorporated in the total cost of $187,841.55 for the purchase of duty and practice ammunition for the Little Rock Police Department and for other purposes. A resolution authorized the city manager to enter into an extension agreement with the Little Rock Convention and Visitors Bureau to manage and operate the Little Rock River Market and Riverfest Amphitheater for a 12-month term beginning January 1st, 2019, and for other purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with Rainey Electronics Incorporated for a total purchase price of $225,043.35 for the purchase of new scoreboards for 27 locations throughout the City of Little Rock's park system and for the purposes. That concludes the consent agenda.
Director Adcock, 1 second. I believe Director Adcock had a question, but first we want to hear a motion to.
I made the
Oh,
motion.
I didn't hear. All right, been moved and properly second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Director Adcock.
On item 5, please.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to have Mr. Honeywell discuss this with us, please.
Director Honeywell.
Honeywood and Mr. Honeywell. I have had several calls on this. Over the last 9 years, we have 3 times gone to the citizens and heard their complaints and everything about flooding in their neighborhoods and in their homes. And my calls was, okay, how does this one get on the agenda to get tore down when our houses have not been addressed? And I've talked to you about this, I've talked to Mr. Moore about this, and I would like for you to explain to us the procedure that the homeowner of this property went through, how other people can also follow this same procedure, and what would be the outcome of this vote tonight, and then what is the long-term outcome of this piece of property.
Okay.
Point of privilege before Director Honeywell gives his response to Director Adcock. For the record, on the consent agenda item, resolution number 4, Madam Clerk, please reflect that Director Webb did recuse herself from that vote.
Okay.
Please proceed, Director Honeywell.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, board members, Director Adcock, this particular proposed project of removing this home from the floodplain floodway is part of a federally funded through FEMA flood mitigation assistance grant program. These are voluntary. It's a voluntary program that's available to repetitive loss homes that are involved in the National Flood Insurance Program. So not a lot of the homes that we talked about where people have drainage issues, they aren't necessarily applicable to this program. The property needs to be located within the floodplain. Anyone that is located within the floodplain is eligible to apply for this program. Whether or not they'll actually be granted funding is based on any past claims that they've had and the availability of money through the federal government. The city this last year did an outreach based on those repetitive loss homes where we've had multiple claims on homes. We notified not only those homeowners but also houses that are located in the general area of those homes to inform them of this program, to give them the opportunity, if they're interested in applying for it, who to contact within the city to find out more information about that. We sent out a little over 500 letters to homes in the city. Out of that distribution of information, we got back anywhere between 10 and 20 inquiries from citizens. Out of those inquiries, 5 people actually proceeded to look at filling out an application or a notice of intent to apply. Of those 5, 2 of them were not approved or not forwarded by the Arkansas Natural Resources. They're the state agency that oversees that program, and that was due to either their eligibility, cost-benefit analysis of removing the home. Are they saving money in the long run versus paying insurance claims on that home due to flooding? 2 of the other applicants withdrew their applications. I think that's based on the payback that they were potentially see through the program. It wasn't the amount of money that they thought they would receive. by going through the program. And then one of those applications is still going through the process. It's not this one, it's an additional one to Curtis Cove, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Next thing you asked about was this property, what's going to happen to it if it gets approved tonight. I'm sorry. So now that it's been approved, I forgot that it got voted on. What happens is the city will go through the process of acquiring the property, and then we have to remove the structure from the property within 90 days. All of these costs are reimbursed to the city through this federal program. So if this property has liens, back taxes, a mortgage, that money is paid by the property owner based on the money that we give them for their the appraised value of their house. The city doesn't incur any of those costs.
Okay, and the total that we are spending on this federal money is $174,000?
Yes, ma'am. That includes demolition. That includes all of the work that goes on, not only acquiring the house, but also removing it.
So anybody that has flood insurance can contact you, and who is it in your office they will contact?
The contact is Sam Kraymeyer. It's S-A-M, and then his last name is Kreimeyer.
And his number?
His number is 501-918-5348. And
Okay.
he loves to hear from people about this.
Good. Now, we have done this in other neighborhoods, particularly in Southwest Little Rock.
Yes, ma'am.
And what we have heard from the neighbors at these infrastructure meetings is these become weed lots. Because if once these houses are torn down, this cannot be used for any building, any fencing, or any structure of any kind. So it remains a vacant weed lot in our city. And this, your department is responsible for the cutting and cleaning of these.
With the properties that we have out there now that have gone through this particular program,
How many are there?
there's, including this one, there's 4. So there's only 3 others besides this that have gone through this particular acquisition process. I don't necessarily want to list off their locations, but all of those 3 that are in existence now are maintained by the adjacent property owners. They have decided to take over that property, not own it. The city still owns it, but they've taken responsibility for maintaining it, basically made it part of their yards. So all of these right now are currently being very well maintained, just like anyone's yard.
Okay, so the neighbors on both sides of this property can contact you about maintaining this property?
If they would like. If not, in this Curtis Cove situation, the city, we do maintain lots. We typically do about 8 to 9 mows a year on these type of situations where it's city-owned property. So it's not going to be necessarily maintained like someone mowing their yard every week, but we do have a program in place where we can maintain that.
One of the memos that you sent, you said that you had contacted the other 11 property owners on Curtis Cove.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you make them aware that this would be a vacant lot?
I think when we notified them, it wasn't necessarily about this house being removed. It was about their if they were interested in the information about this actual program of acquisition.
So will you go back and visit the house there on McDaniel, which is adjacent to this, and also the house in Curtis Cove?
We certainly can do that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor, I thought it was important that we let the neighborhood people understand this, because so many have been before the board at board meetings and infrastructure meetings talking about the problems with the flooding in the neighborhoods, particularly in Southwest Little Rock. And I wanted to make sure everyone understood that the city had no way of moving this property up in front of any other property.
I think that was very good that you did make that distinction in that process. So we do appreciate you for making certain that everyone is aware of that as we move forward. So I do
Thank you.
appreciate you, Director Adcock. Director Richardson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not for you, John. I had a question for Mr. Attorney, I suspect, on the resolution that Director Webb recused herself from. I think last week I asked about the utilizations of the land that we're quit claiming to, I guess, DePaul. I think it was mentioned that these are going to be homes for the homeless. Is that correct? Affordable housing. So I guess my Can you come to the mic, please, Mr. Turner?
Well, excuse me, Director Richardson, it is for affordable housing. Now, there could be some individuals that may, at some point in their time, been homeless.
Sure. So what criteria we're utilizing to determine who will receive these homes? Do we have any influence on that, or do we have any say-so? I mean, what criteria will be utilized to make sure there's some equity and fairness with respect to the selection of the people who get in these homes?
As I said, I would defer that to DePaul. The reason I mentioned last week about homeless, that's their primary clientele because they work at Jericho Way. But yeah, that would be something that DePaul would be making that determination primarily probably through their clients and people they see. They're not getting any funding from us for down payment assistance or construction or any of that.
So we can get further information from you, James, with respect to
Yes,
the summary
Randy.
of this program. Some
And the
kind of description.
individuals will have gone through and received services throughout a period, and will also, that they will have jobs. Over the last few years that we've worked with DePaul, there are a number of people that they have placed in houses. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but we'll get it to you. But it's, I want to think, I think 50-something.
How many?
I think lower 50.
52. So, Victor, homelessness is not a criteria. I think I'm hearing you right now.
Not necessarily, no.
But it is part of their program and how they utilize their
Similar
program.
to Our Way and other agencies.
Okay, thank you.
And I think this is just another way to show how well the program that we've contracted with DePaul is working, that they have gone beyond just providing services for a day resource center. They are working with individuals to definitely better their lives.
And we partner with them on similar types of efforts that we're discussing tonight, this program that we're talking about tonight?
Yes, this is another program that they have come to the city looking for land that they could acquire. And they have raised private funds where they will actually go in and build duplexes on this property and provide a home, and that people will pay some rent.
And these properties in the land bank, correct?
They are.
And we've had similar types of efforts where we've quitclaimed deeds to either nonprofits or organizations or other entities to have maybe not this particular use, but similar kind of uses like urban gardens or other kind of services that could be beneficial to the community.
That's correct.
So this is not an aberration.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Raycock, if you would, please approach the podium. Just 1 second.
Yes, sir.
First, I want to apologize. We started without going to our agenda card, and you did, in timely fashion, did present your agenda card to speak against items number 4 and items number 8. So we'll first start with item number 4, and then we'll get back into rotation where I'll allow the directors to ask their questions. But if you would, you have the time allotment to speak against item number 4.
Thank you, Mayor. I heard what the Assistant City Manager said about DePaul and Jericho Way, and I couldn't disagree more. That DePaul's operation of that facility is lacking. It's open from 8 to 2. It's at the edge of town, and the director of that, as I've spoken on the board before and blogged about, she's made false claims that she was kidnapped. She even filed a police report against me because I made a blog about her claiming she used white heterosexual privilege to stop abuse by a police officer. Now, I sent an FOI request to the police department, and it came back she'd never filed a complaint about any officer, and they had no information about any kind of kidnapping. And I'm sure that Assistant Chief Falk could tell you if we had a kidnapping of someone with a Christian charity, that would have been front page news. But that's the type of people that you have running this particular organization. Now, as Director Richardson brought up in the last meeting, I don't believe that anybody in the area, I believe this is in Ward 1, which is Director Hendrick's ward, there weren't any community meetings come in,
And, the last time they did this, the community raised 4 kinds of heck with the home that they bought from the one. I think that the city needs to not give this public land to a private entity that requires contracts and pledges of prayer before these people are served. And, we have to realize that not everyone that's houseless is a Christian, and they shouldn't be forced to have to follow these protocols with that. And again, I believe that you need to have some input from the neighborhood. There should have been some kind of meetings. I don't know if notices were sent out. I don't think there were any kind of things like that, because there are concerns that people have. Not that these people are dangerous or anything like that, but anytime that you have things where people could see this, and I think it might have been mischaracterized in the last time that it was a halfway house or something like that. We need to be trying to belay these concerns and deal with it openly, transparently, to engage the community so that we can have homeless things. The city claims it's a city of compassion. Last year, y'all passed that, and at the same time, the Little Rock Police was targeting From His Thrones Ministries that was down on Markham. There were all kinds of allegations that were totally unfounded, and the former befouled chief never recanted those. And we stopped the feedings under the bridge. Director Compuris was quoted in the paper saying that if you think giving a little bit of food to people makes a difference, then you're mistaken. And I think that the doctor... Well, doctor, it was in the paper, and I've posted it on the blog, and I can't believe that the Democrat Gazette would misquote you in that. But I think the city, y'all need to look in the mirror and ask if we're doing all that we can do for these folks that need our help, because a lot of people are one paycheck or one government subsidy from being homeless. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Raycott. Director Peck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was actually Mr. Jones answered most of these, but this affordable housing is for formerly homeless people. They have gainful employment, and I think the number, James, is about 56 homes as of last year. So he answered most of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Hendricks.
Thank you. My comment has to do with resolution number 4. What I want to say is that the action of this resolution took place, and as it has been mentioned in Ward 1, I hope that this is the first time, and I hope that this never happens again. People just come in as if, I realize I'm a black female, okay? I always have to remind the audience that color makes a difference when you're sitting up here. And I want to really be a part of what's about to happen with these lots over in Ward 1. Everybody can sit here quiet and everything, but I could talk about racism for hours up here. A lot of us are afraid to talk about it. I've been doing it for 60 years with NAACP, and I don't think I'll ever stop. But if you will make sure that whatever other action happens with these lots, that I'm a part of it.
Yes, ma'am, and I'll ask, we'll make certain of that. And Mr. Assistant City Manager, let's have a discussion after the meeting.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And one point I'd also like to make, we went through a rezoning process. There were public meetings. There was information about this property, months ago.
We'll carry on. Are there any more questions? Being none, we'll move on to the next agenda card. Sorry, 1 second, Director. Director Richardson.
Well, it may be premature, Mayor. If we have another agenda card on the consent agenda, I want to ask the city attorney, I didn't have a voice voice. I just sat silently. Can I record a nay vote on the consent agenda?
The vote's supposed to be entered before the result's been announced, and with the consent of the board, you're allowed to do so if you wish to show that your vote was a negative vote.
Yes, I would.
And if the board agrees unanimously, then you're allowed to do so.
Do we have a motion to allow Director Richardson to rescind his vote to record with a nay? There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Seconded.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Director Richardson just seconded it. He can.
Director Richardson has seconded the motion.
Yes, sir.
All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. There's a roll call.
Director Hendricks? Director Richardson?
Aye.
Director Webb?
She recused herself.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
But she would not
Director
vote.
Peck? Director Hines? Director Wright? Director Campuris? Director Fordson? Vice Mayor Wyrick? 4 to 5.
So it fails.
Motion fails. We'll now move forward to agenda item number 8. As far as the agenda item card, Mr. Raycott.
Well, I think we just saw an example of Director Hendricks' racism. Now, again, these are already been voted on, so I'm up here just blowing steam, but I'm going to go ahead and talk because my rights were violated by not being able to speak appropriately before the votes were cast. Not that it would change anything, but this extension agreement that you have with the Little Rock Convention and Visitors Bureau to operate the river market, I think since the government, city government's being reorganized by the mayor, and you have all these committees, I think you need to get a committee to look at this and see if maybe you don't need to hire an individual that's an event manager, make them a city employee and let them run that river market, because frankly, this group with the Convention Bureau, they don't like freedom to respond to Freedom of Information Acts. You have to threaten and take them to court, which I have no problems doing. And they ran off one of the most long-term tenants that had 2 stores down there. Now the place is just about empty. It's a good thing they gave favor to David Burgers, because otherwise you wouldn't have hardly anything down there. But they had issues with sewage that they didn't take care of, air conditioning that they didn't take care of. I think you had to use porta potties outside part of the last year, and then hand sanitizer to wash your hands. I don't know how the health department let that place operate, but I'm sure there were some under-the-table dealings with former Mayor Stodola in them. But they also put up these ocean-looking waves out there, and I thought that it had been closed and made into an aquarium, and it kept where people couldn't see that you actually had restaurants and things in there. Again, this I think the city should look at hiring an individual to be an event manager, make them a city employee where you have some accountability, because by the time it gets through these different committees and different groups, you've got so much going on and so distant from having somebody that's responsible for it, people just give up. And I know that this former tenant's contemplating filing some lawsuits against the city and things like that, and I'm sure that Mr. Moore or Mr. Jones, if he's still here, will be writing a big check like they have before. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Rakoff, thank you for your feedback. Director Fordson.
Mr. Mayor, obviously a lot of stories have 2 sides. A lot of tenant-landlord disagreements have multiple sides. As a member of the Advertising and Promotion Commission, I can assure this board, though, that we have a policy of rapid response, a policy of responding to complaints and needs down in the river market. And since this arrangement has existed, I think the profitability of the lessen losses at the river market and the efficiency of it have increased. And I think representatives of the Convention and Visitors Bureau would be glad to come and appear with this board at any time to answer any questions any director you might have. So.
Well, thank you, Director Forson. As a new member of this board, I will continue to agree with you and assure that if there's any issue, those issues will be addressed as we move forward, and I do appreciate your comments. Director Campiris.
Well, just to second what Gene said, when this started, this was a entity of the Downtown Partnership. The Downtown Partnership couldn't take care of it the way it should, and the Parks Department took it over. The Parks Department has great expertise in a lot of things, but running events was not one of them. And we formed a partnership with the A&P Commission to manage it. We pay for about half the money that goes into it. It works well. They manage the pavilions. They manage the amphitheater. We have a new contract with people out there. We are turning over people, and we're doing a new study to see how we can change the river market after 25 years. The A&P Commission and their representatives are extraordinarily efficient and on top of looking at how to develop this into a better entity and what's going on. And I cannot tell you that there would not be any reason to bring this back in-house to a group of people that don't have expertise at looking at things and promoting different entities. So I would take different from what Mr. Rakoff said.
Thank you for your comments and your feedback. Director Peck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a former member of the Advertising and Promotion Commission, I just want to echo what both directors, Campiris and Fortson, said, and I can't address the porta potties issue. The restrooms were being remodeled during that time when those were out, and you had to use hand sanitizer. Thank you, Director Peck. Director Richardson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As the board liaison during my first term, Tom or James, one of you guys can give me some background on the historical racial makeup of the A&P Commission since its inception. If we can get some kind of conceptual framework or background of the A&P Commission over time.
And actually, that may be better if you will give me the honor to change that just a little bit. And I know that Mr. City Attorney has a lot on his plate. If Mr. Assistant Manager could get that information from Gretchen Hall and get that to Director Richardson as soon as possible, preferably this evening or tomorrow morning.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor.
Tom, you should say thank you. It's a joke. Everybody's a joke. We can have fun here. See, we can have fun in the city hall, right? That's right. All right. All that being said, I think we've heard from all the comments as it relates to the consent agenda. I do have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
It's already been, yeah.
Okay. This brings us now to, we've been moving so far with all these questions. That brings us now to the citizens communication portion of our agenda. For those wishing to participate in this communication, you would have 3 minutes to present a specific item that's not already on the agenda. Maximum 30 minutes is allotted for the citizens communication portion of the meeting. Right now, as far as who has submitted those, we have Mr. Roderick Talley to discuss public safety. Mr. Talley, if you would, please approach the podium.
Good evening. My name is Roger Talley. I'm one of the many victims and survivors of the illegal no-knock search warrants here in Little Rock. In the past 7 months, more than 15 other defendants have had their charges dismissed. Few have taken misdemeanor plea deals for probation due to their ignorance of the law and their rights. Mr. Carpenter, I was in your office in February 2018, and you told me to my face that you were on the right side of right, and that if these officers had done something wrong, you were going to hold them accountable. Up to date, that has been a lie. Ms. Doris Wright, at the very first press conference there was an event held after that at the Little Rock Kappa League. You didn't acknowledge me. You didn't walk up to me to say I'm sorry for what happened to you. You had no words for me and no concern, and this is going on in your ward also. But you made it your business to, get photo ops and let people know that you were responsible for the funding of the community center on John Barrow, not understanding that it's that means nothing when the kids there are being locked up before they can even have an opportunity to go to that center. These no-knock search warrants are happening again. You got a prosecutor as the judge, Melody Martin, who I don't understand how a judge could be unbiased, but she has started back signing these search warrants for the same officers that violated me and that I right now have a lawsuit against. Mayor Scott, I respect you a lot because you look like me in regards to your race, in regards to you being a father, and to know that you have to know that you are like me in as far as color, but I'm a father, and many of these victims were fathers also. So I ask this board, if you can't have sympathy for me, have sympathy for the children that have been affected by this, that are continuing to be affected by this. I'm a grown man, and I'm scared to death of the police. So imagine that happening in some of these victims, 14-year-old children being at home, 12-year-old children being at home, and 5-month-old children being at home. A lot of these people voted for you because they believed in you and because of the racist tactics that were used by the FOP, which we're both familiar with. This hasn't been addressed. Nothing about these officers has been addressed, and I'm wondering where is anybody going to step up to do anything? I thank you, Mr. Richardson, for at least taking the time to say I'm sorry for what happened to you the last time I was here, that I didn't get an opportunity to speak. But I just want to let you know, even in considering anybody as a police chief, the assistant police chiefs that are currently here should not even be in consideration because they have done nothing to try to help anybody regarding these no-knock search warrants. And I'm asking this city board to at least ask your city manager to ask the acting assistant chiefs to do something about these officers, if at least put them on suspension until this investigation is over with.
Mr. Talley, thank you so much for your comments, and I do appreciate your respect towards me. What I will share with you, because I do sympathize with you, I do understand what you're talking about, what you've gone through, and through the conversations that we've had before. And you remain in my prayers. Of what happened to you was definitely unacceptable, something that will be addressed as we move forward. And just to make certain for the record that you are aware, while I've been blessed to be the new mayor of this great city, I've been on the job now for 36 days. And so part of that process, so you will know in this first month, that the city attorney and I have talked, and we are looking into a no-knock warrant policy for the city of Little Rock. And there are a lot of things that go in place as to what is permissive, what is not permissive. There's a lot of legalities that have to move forth. It is a journey in that process to get this policy. And ultimately, this policy will, depending on what is transposed from the city attorney, may or may not have to be a board decision. But since this is a board, I want to make certain, because it has implications on this entire city and the public safety of our entire city, that I will make certain that the board is fully aware of what's going on, and want to make certain that we make certain decisions in consultation as a community. But I want you to know that your mayor is looking into this, has already had conversations in these first 36 days, and we will see where this journey will take us. But it is a top priority of mine, in addition to other things that we have already discussed as it relates to a citizen review board as we move forward. So I want to make certain that we're clear on that. Then secondly, just for the record, I do sympathize on a number of the things. I have not been blessed to become a father yet, but I will hopefully one day become a father. But I do take an account of all of the young black, brown, and any other color person that has had any wrongful situation that has been done to them by any entity of this city will have to be addressed top and foremost. But in the same vein, we have to always respect and honor and appreciate the men and women of Little Rock Police Department as well. But we will not stand for any injustice in this city, and we will make certain that if injustice is arise, it will be stamped out. Director Hendricks.
Thank you. I just wanted to commend the young man. When I came in, I didn't recognize him at first, but I want to let you know that you have my support.
Thank you, Director Hendricks. Director Wright.
Thank you. And Mr. Talley, if you feel that I owe you an apology, then you have it. I am not proud and not too proud to say that if you feel that I owe you an apology, then I do give you that apology. I was at that event by invitation. And as to the photo op that you mentioned, I believe you were in that photo op as well. And I don't recall everything that occurred there, but if you feel that I owe you an apology, I do. But for the West Central Community Center, I make no apologies because it is for the children of Ward 6 and the citizens of Little Rock to come and be in a safe place, to have structured environment, to understand that they are loved and cared for. So whereas you try to rub my face in that, I'm not accepting that. It is for those kids so that they do know and they can have a place to be so they're not out in the streets. So I appreciate you, I support you, and I hope that you get the restitution that you deserve. Nobody deserves, when I saw the video, I said nobody deserves that to happen in their home. The first thing I thought was, what if a child had been standing behind that door? So
At
I
this point,
apologize.
I'm going to suggest to the board that your conversations are not appropriate.
Okay.
The tape was edited. We don't have the unedited tape yet. And I think there's a lot of factors here that need to be looked at. The most important factor is that these searches he's complaining about were with warrants issued by a judge. And
not within my control.
I mean, that's the purpose of having judges for the last 200 years. So I would suggest that if you've got questions, if you could write them and send them to us, we'll try to answer those that we can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Wright. Director Richardson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just one point of clarification, Director Wright. I hope the community center is open to all young people from all wards, rather than just Ward 6.
And I
So
believe I
just,
said that. You heard what you wanted to.
thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Director Richardson. We'll now move forward. We have a civil complaint from Mrs. Kimberly Kinney. Kimberly Kinney. If you would, please approach the podium, please.
May I issue a copy of my complaint?
You can approach them.
Well, that's not it. Excuse me. Sorry.
Thank you.
My complaint, it deals with police brutality, and I know I only have 3 minutes, so I'm just gonna read my complaint off. This civil complaint that I have is a major issues that deals with organized crimes, which has been done in the community, which involve technology and cybernetics and microchip mind control and implants and fMRI brain imaging. DARPA, Brain Initiative. My name is Kimberly Kinney, and I am a United States citizen, and I want to express a written and oral viewpoint and grievous complaint. Okay, I'm just reading off what I wrote because I know I only have 3 minutes. It's a grievance complaint and other legal messages and concerning illegal issues to the Board of Directors. This is regarding police brutality or organized gang stalking, which was illegal discrimination, retaliation, and cruel punishment, which was a racist plan which was done to me against criminal activity which took place against Miss Kinney, which is me. What is happening is my brain is being zapped with high powerful voltages of electricity against my will. I have been chipped inside my head, brain chip, which have been chipped, where they doing electrical, high voltage of electrical power, high voltage of energy inside my head. Also, and there have been a microchip implanted inside my body, heating and vibrating in my flesh, which has damaged my internal organs. And this has been going on for 5 years. And as of February of 2019, the microchip and the wireless brain chip still exists inside my body and brain. This is cruel punishment and unfair treatment which was done to Miss Kinney against her will. And this is when all these criminal activity was done to me when I became part of the University of Arkansas Police Department. However, I do not have a criminal background history, and I have not committed any crimes, and I have also had an Arkansas State Police background check done and a police report and a criminal record check done, which I have a clean record. And there is no criminal record history on me at all. When I became part of the UALR Police Department, this is when my brain was illegally hacked into, which is mind control against my will. And after my brain has been illegally hacked into, I have been completely surveilled inside my own home. I've been completely surveilled at the job, which they have done, which to harass, to torture, to monitor, to track me, which has been done 24/7 a day. Safety and community. In this community, I have become.
Time has been allotted, Ms. Kinney, and I do thank you for your comments, and we'll definitely look into this issue. We now have an agenda card, a citizen communication card from Deacon Harley Watson, I apologize, Deacon Watson, and Preston C.B. Robinson, Pastor, apologize. Now, your time, just for informational purposes, your times, because you had wrote it together, can be joined together, but you only have 3 minutes.
He has a separate card.
This is true. Sorry, you wrote it all in one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deacon Watson.
Good evening. I'm from the east end of Little Rock, Arkansas. We have a problem with the city concerning Cheatham Park. It was told to us that the playground equipment that was removed in June of 2017 will be replaced by October 2017. We came down and we talked to Mr. Tollfree, and he gave us assurance that at the time the funding wasn't there. We heard and followed up all last year and was told that the funding was there and that we would be the first one of the top communities that would be issued the playground equipment. To my understanding on the news broadcast is that you all's going out in West Little Rock issuing new parks, new playground equipment, while the east side of Little Rock has been neglected. We have children down there that don't have the equipment, don't have anything to do but just a basketball court. We have Carver Magnet School down there. Their playground equipment is there, but it's locked. If the kids go inside and use that playground equipment, they're going to get arrested for trespassing and some other criminal activity. I don't think that's fair to our community of having the park there and not the playground equipment to utilize the park at its fullest. We have the community center. It closes in the evening, but it's have no playground equipment. So my concern is that what was promised to the East End, that it should be given to the East End. We have came, we have been told, and here we are again this evening. The question is, where are we, or when it will be, that the playground equipment will be issued or be placed in Cheatham Park for the kids down in the East End? You know, we say we have a problem. We can satisfy the problem by giving the kids something to do in the evening. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Deacon Watson. Director Hendricks.
Let the other gentleman speak first.
Yes, ma'am. Pastor Robinson.
Thank you so much. To our esteemed mayor, assistant mayor, members of the board of directors, I'm Reverend Dr. C.B. Robinson, pastor of St. John Missionary Baptist Church. Our church is located at 1920 East 6th Street on the East End. We are directly east of Cheatham Park. Our children in 5 churches in that community utilize that park regularly all throughout the year. And just piggybacking on what Deacon Watson said, we have been deferred and neglected over the last 5 years. We personally came to and met with Mr. Tollfree, showed him pictures of persistent aggravated severe flooding in that area. Numerous pictures were provided. We were assured that they would establish a drain system, that they would provide leveling the ground so that they would have adequate runoff so that the problem did not occur. And at that time, we were only asking for the playground equipment to be painted. Since that time, the playground equipment has been removed and nothing has been done. I have with me several, chairman of our deacon board, Deacon Pace, won't you stand? Other members of our church are here. St. John, won't you stand? To show that we love our city, we love our parks. We're all in, we support our parks. Anytime that they're being used in the community, we take the initiative to clean them up, to make sure that we police the area regularly. This is that we do as a church. This is what we do as a church. So our concern is that we're not being treated fairly. Other areas and neighborhoods of a city are being provided substantial services, but the east end of Little Rock is being neglected in that area. That ends my comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pastor Robinson. Director Hendricks.
Thank you. I will piggyback on what has been said already, that the park needs to be replenished with equipment. I think about 2 meetings ago, we got word that 3 other parks in the west part of Little Rock had been approved for activities, and that's when my phone started ringing from the residents about what's going on with Cheatham Park. But would you ask Mr. Eckhart to come to the mic, please?
Director Eckhart, if you would, please come to the mic.
Because I had to put him through the ringer to let him know that the East End was as important as the west part of Little Rock. He has good news for you. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the board. Yes, East End is absolutely important to us as well. And one of the playgrounds that is included in the 4 playground grant that we did get was Hanger Hill, which is also in the east end of the town. But we have ordered equipment for Cheatham Park, and it will be installed by early April. We had to do some planning as far as what equipment we want to utilize, as well as improve the ADA accessibility to this equipment. So that took a little bit of time, but we are on track to get this installed by April. And we'll have a swing set, a slide, and a spinner. So it's similar to the equipment that was taken out, which was very old and very unsafe. So that needed to go. But the pastors are very correct that we need to put something back.
Well, thank you so much, Director Eckhart.
Thank you.
That now concludes the cards that were submitted for citizens' communication. Madam Clerk, would you please read items 10 through 14 for the first time?
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to issue a sole source purchase order to Axon Enterprises Incorporated in the total cost of $140,313, excluding taxes, and the purchase of 40 less than lethal electronic control devices, including holsters, cameras, warranties, and taser cartridges for the Little Rock Police Department, and for the purposes. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to issue a sole source purchase order to the Lilly Company in an amount not to exceed $76,750 for the purchase of 2 Go-4 interceptor carts for the Public Works Department, and for the purposes. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to issue a sole source purchase order to Sunbelt Fire in an amount not to exceed $270,000 for E1 fire truck parts and services for the Fleet Services Department, and for the purposes. An ordinance to create the Age-Friendly Little Rock Commission to declare an emergency, and for other purposes. First reading.
There's been a motion to suspend the rules and for the second reading. Motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Motion passed. Madam Clerk, second reading, please.
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to issue a sole source purchase order to Axon Enterprises Incorporated in the total cost of $140,313, excluding taxes, for the purchase of 40 less than lethal electronic control devices, including holsters, cameras, warranties, and taser cartridges for the Little Rock Police Department. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to issue a sole search purchase order to the Lilly Company in the amount not to exceed $76,750 for the purchase of 2 Go-4 interceptor carts for the Public Works Department. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to issue a sole search purchase order to Sunbelt Fire in an amount not to exceed $270,000 for E1 fire trucks, parts, and services for the Fleet Services Department. An ordinance to create the Age-Friendly Little Rock Commission to declare an emergency. Second reading.
So there's a motion. There's a motion and second suspended for third reading. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Third reading.
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to issue a sole search purchase order to Axon Enterprises Incorporated in the total cost of $140,313, excluding taxes, for the purchase of 40 less than lethal electronic control devices, including holsters, cameras, warranties, and taser cartridges for the Little Rock Police Department. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to issue a sole search purchase order to the Lilly Company in amount not to exceed $76,750 for the purchase of 2 Go-4 interceptor carts for the Public Works Department. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to issue a sole search purchase order to Sunbelt Fire in an amount not to exceed $270,000 for E1 fire trucks, parts, and services for the Fleet Services Department. An ordinance to create the Age-Friendly Little Rock Commission to declare an emergency. Third and final reading.
We've had three readings of the ordinance. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the passage of these ordinances indicated by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. All those in favor of the passage of the emergency clause for item number 14 indicated by saying aye. All those opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. The board will now go into executive session for the purpose of making appointments and reappointments to various city boards and commissions. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Director Peck. I'll just redo it again. I'm sorry.
Testing? Oh, there I am. Thank you. Very briefly, some members of the Age-Friendly Commission are here. They've done a lot of work, and I would just ask them to stand up and thank you, and we're excited to move forward. So you volunteers, come on, Beth, stand up, Lou. Thank you for being here. We're super excited.
Thank you all for your service to our city. Director Compuris. You got to. You took you off. Director Compuris.
I'm going to give you a copy of the paper, I think or Sunday's paper. There's an article about marijuana and mental illness and violence that I thought was real good, that everybody ought to read. We're going to select a new police chief, and people need to know some of the science behind this as we're looking at how to select a new police chief. So I'm not saying I'm for or against it, but this is just good information, a good editorial that everybody, if you hadn't read it, I hope we pass it out to everybody.
Will do. Madam Clerk, if you could make a copy of this, or Mr. Assistant City Manager, make a copy to make sure everyone on the board has this copy. Vice Mayor Wyatt.
I'm not trying to tag on Director Compuris, but I just received word that there is a marijuana dispensary that's going in at 11201 Stagecoach Road, and the residents are asking me about it. The organization that's doing this has got like 60 different sites, so it sounds like to me that we're starting to see these locations that are going to pop up, and I don't know if the Planning Commission is clued in on them. I don't know what the process is for that, but I'd like a follow-up on this one location for sure, and I'd like some information on the locations that they know about or are involved with at this point. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. Executive session. board is back in executive session. I will call the meeting back to order. I will now read off. We have a great crowd today, right? Yeah. Rachel, how are you? Are you representing as a concerned citizen, or are you representing Arkansas Democrat Gazette? Yes. Just a reporter today. So we have nobody in attendance. Okay. Well, I guess we are online. That being said, the board and commission appointment recommendations who have now been appointed, assuming board vote and board adjustment, Frank Allison, and there will remain an open seat on the board adjustment. City Beautiful had 3 appointments. And those 3 appointments include Troy Leahy, Phyllis Anderson, and then there will still remain an open seat. Parks and Recreation will be Demetria Murdoch. Sustainability Commission, Linda Smith, Utah Meyer, Brittany Nichols, Rachel Furham, Tanika Evanston, Karen Zaccardi, Michael Nichols, Casey Shepard, Jan Baker, Theodore Dinsing, Michael DeAngelis, Randy Pierce, Micah McLean, Andrew Jester, and 1 second, I need to ask a question. And finally, Ron Hughes and Andrew Jester. As relates to the zoo, 3 positions, Adrian Collins, Chris McCall, Wendy Wire, MacArthur Military History Museum, Wayne Norton, Jeff Thatcher, Hayden Rather, David McDaniel, Fred Boozy, Helen Lee, Paula Furlow, Andrew Amst, Markham Howe, Joseph Mackey, and there will remain 3 open positions that will roll over. Racial Cultural Diversity Commission has 3 positions, Sylvia Theodone, LaQuisha Grayson, Brian Warr. Sister Cities, 1 appointment, Deneen Hill. Have a motion to approve the appointments? So moved. The motion is second to approve. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Do the board members have anything else to bring before the board? Motion to adjourn, Mayor. Motion to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Meeting adjourned.